Today, my guest is Will Harris from Whole Harvest Kitchen. Hi, Will. How are you today?
Everything is going well. Thanks. How about you?
Good, good, good. So tell us a little bit about Whole Harvest Kitchen.
Well, Whole Harvest started right around the time of the pandemic as a means to feed people that are struggling from heart disease or any sort of the ailments that kind of riddle our country. So it started in Kansas City, and the owner decided to change his life after a course of heart problems, two times actually. And he fixed his health, changed his life with his diet and his lifestyle, and then wanted to share that power and that knowledge with everyone. So he started off building a small group of people together, preparing meals that were whole food plant-based, that lowered your cholesterol, opened up your arteries, allowed your body to heal itself. And it worked. It worked for him. It did wonders. And he wanted to really spread the word. So we started off really small, local deliveries in North Kansas City. And then we became larger than expected. And so we moved the business to Colorado and then delivered these meals nationwide and had a really good run with it and helped some doctors in California do their medical trials. So there was a heart disease study and an Alzheimer's study with a doctor named Dean Ornish out in the California area. So successful studies that had results, very positive results of reversing heart disease, prevention of hypertension or cancer, and then obviously Alzheimer's. So with that same idea, we took that into the restaurant group. And so then we started a restaurant group last year. And so our first brick and mortar is in Kansas City, and we have plans of expansion across the nation.
Great. So the initial business model was that you were doing home delivery of meals?
Yeah. We had two sectors of the business, and the first part was home delivery. For about 4 years, we ran that business, and sadly, we had to close it down about 3 or 4 months ago, just because of the cost expense behind it. And our goal was to infiltrate or pair and team up with the medical industry, but those things take long periods of time. So lots of red tape there, and so we had to kind of like hold back on that for now.
And lots of investment required for that.
Huge, yeah. It was a beautiful thing. We had a great run and many happy customers, and so we'll probably revisit that in the future. But for now, we have a greater local impact with the restaurant business that we're growing.
So it's not unusual in a company's evolution to have something like that happen, where part of the business model doesn't work and you have to shut it down. But
Yeah,
not shutting it down prevents the opportunity to pivot and do something else. So
exactly, and we look at it as just another notch on the belt. I think that any great achievement comes with a couple, let's just call it failures, right? Not
right.
failures as a business, but yeah, sometimes you don't really realize what's achievable until you make a mistake, right?
Well, and it's
Yeah,
usually that's where the biggest learnings come from.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So
Yeah.
what's your personal background? How did you get involved? And so what is your role with the company?
So I'm the culinary director. Everything from the concept to design of the company and kind of the ins and outs, the nuts and bolts, and kind of it was my brainchild. So developed the box business, and now with the restaurant and the growing potential that we have, it's kind of everything from the menu to the design of the restaurant to the aesthetics to the build out. So it's the full package.
Wow.
So I've learned a lot along the way, and had a long history of cooking and career, 25 years in the business. Started when I was 15,
Wow.
and yeah, worked everywhere, all over the country, mostly fine dining, and then realized that, serving someone a rich meal with the best products is one way to make an impact, but I had a kind of lofty goal of how do I make a bigger impact and actually help people. And so I got into this side of cooking and the health side of the business from my own health declining. Being a chef is not the easiest thing on your body. And so 25 years of eating while standing up and eating protein, right? Like a typical diet for a busy restaurant chef is whatever's available, right? So I would eat, beef and pork and foie gras and whatever I could put in my mouth. And I did the math. It was like 15 years of eating like that while standing up, and I destroyed my insides. So I had intestinal issues and diverticulitis, and it put me in the hospital
Oh my.
And I was stressed to the roof, and I just didn't even realize it. Didn't realize the impact that my lifestyle and my career. And I was never one of those partier chefs, right? I was always reading cookbooks when I would get off work and getting ready for the next day. But I was a consumptionaholic. I would eat food all day long, and you just can't do that, right? So I had to stop and pause, and it almost cost me my life. And then I met this gentleman in Kansas City, and we got connected through a mutual friend. And I had heard his story and was so inspired by him. And then I told him mine, and we just linked up and made it happen based on that.
That is a great story. So
Yeah.
when I think of Kansas City, it's pretty much Midwest, and beef is a big deal, isn't it?
Huge, huge, huge deal given its terroir and its endless amount of grass that it has there. It's a big cattle country, and obviously some of the best barbecue in the world, right? And but the city's changing, right? And the populations are constantly changing, and so Kansas City has huge developments, and people are moving there, by the droves, and it's changing. So the demographic and the consumer is changing. And so, yes, there is these places that have been serving barbecue for decades, but you see that the people are changing the way they eat generally in the country. And so I think that's why we decided to open there. And obviously our company's rooted there, but I think having an impact on and providing food options for people there is what was really important to us first and foremost.
So was it a slow uptake, or did you find kind of your own tribe and your market of people who wanted to eat healthier and start experimenting with plant-based diets? How's it been the uptake since you opened the restaurant?
It started off. It started off like it was a time of year. So we opened up in a really cold month, in a really cold, shockingly cold month for the season and for Kansas. And so it was really slow at first, and then it started to gain traction. And it gets better every week, we find. And our tactic was, not to scare people, not to overeducate, not to close ourselves off and become these elitists of eat this if you want to be healthy. It's not that. We are a restaurant that serves amazing food that's thoughtfully curated. And guess what? It happens to be vegan, right? And so that's kind of our tactic, and that's worked really well for us. I've never been someone to kind of like gloat or overboast or come elitist, right? And you see that sometimes, right? Like fine dining is offhand for many Americans. So we wanted to open a restaurant that anyone could eat at. It's got a low price point. It's got recognizable dishes and food that anyone can eat there. And that's kind of how we've grown, word of mouth. And so people come in that have this kind of attitude of, I'm a big tough meat eater, and I come in there and wow, it was amazing. It was just really good food. And so that's our goal. And so we're trying not to label it, right? We're trying not to label it. But like restaurant business is hard. I'll be the first one I'll be the first one to say that. And so there's always growing pains and challenges. And you look at America, there's only about 1 or 2% Americans are vegan. And so that's about 30 million people. And so that's a very small portion of people. And so that's not really our attraction goal, is to attract just vegans. It's everyone that wants to have a beautiful environment, a great aesthetic, take their whole family there and enjoy a meal, and then actually feel good, right? It's food that doesn't punish your body post eating. So because so much food is delicious when it goes in, and then it has an impact, right? Mm-hmm. Every human has felt that. So our food, anti-inflammatory, super nutrient dense, and when you eat our food, you feel good, right? And then hopefully inspire your own life and your physical activity and just get better. That's the goal.
So you said you are vegan, because I've got nieces and nephews that some are vegetarian and some are strict vegan, and it's much more difficult to cook for the vegans because you can't use eggs and butter but I sure pulled off a dynamite lemon meringue pie vegan.
Amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. And so I'm not vegan. I was, to heal myself. Mm-hmm. And so when I was sick, I was probably about 80% meat eater. And now it's the opposite. Now it's 80% vegetables and about 10 to 20% ish in there of other things. And I joke around, I call it freegan. And so I'm vegan unless it's free, I'll eat it. But it's just the elimination of processed foods, right? That changed my life. So if it's I'm mostly vegan, and I was lucky. I had the ability to cook that. So to create that cuisine and to really dive deep into it was all because of my passion for food. So for me, it's the same thing. Whether it's a mushroom or a piece of beef, I treat it the same, right? It's the same respect, same technique, and the end result is great because of the same attention to detail. But not entirely vegan.
So is it easier or harder to source the food for a vegan restaurant than, I mean, you're not dealing with meat and some of the contamination issues you have with that, but how about Four Seasons getting the kind of
For
products that you
sure.
menu?
Definitely, yeah, great, yeah. Being in the Midwest is tricky, right? Because you have a growing season that's only about 7 months, and so a lot of produce for the country comes out of California for most of the year, most of the cold
Mhm.
months. And so, yeah, sourcing's tricky. You know, we are mostly organic, right? And so things that we follow the Dirty Dozen list, so berries and leafy things, greens, and so those have to be organic. And then so yeah, we pay more money for those, and it takes more money to process, or takes more time and labor to process those ingredients, and to make. We look at a carrot and say, like, how do I sell this carrot, right? It has to transform itself into the best carrot on earth in order for someone to want to eat it. Whereas someone that puts a smash burger on the grill with cheese and bacon doesn't have to work so hard because those are already amazing. So it's a tricky conundrum, but we figured out a balance, and we have an amazing pizza and bread program, and we have amazing providers and purveyors that give us the best products we can find, and you can taste the difference. So that's key for us, is finding the best stuff we can find.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Does your menu change seasonally because it's
it
sourced?
does. Yeah, it doesn't flip completely. We have some anchors on the menu, some staples that will always be on there, not based on seasonality. But then we have the seasonal sprinkles, and it just helps us that way. But definitely, if tomatoes and watermelon are great, they'll be on the menu right now, and corn. And so as we get into this late summer, that's what's really hitting the markets well right now, is peppers and tomatoes and eggplant and melons. And so as we get into the fall season, we'll see more gourds and squashes and pumpkins, and yeah. And so we try to keep up as much as possible, but also try to not take things away. If someone likes the dish, we keep it on. But let's say it's a tomato dish, we take it off because, hey, tomatoes taste like plastic in January.
Mhm.
So that, we try to keep it like that.
Do
Our
you have your
philosophy.
own garden for spices?
We don't. We have goals to have. We do have herb garden. We grow herbs and little perennial things like thyme, rosemary, sage, and basil and stuff like that. But we have talked about it, yeah, because it makes sense to have our own farm one day.
Hmm. Hmm.
But yeah, yeah, it
So,
makes sense.
what's the most challenging thing about running a restaurant?
Oh my gosh, there's so many variables. It's mostly the overhead, right? I mean, you throw so much at providing the best experience for the guests that it costs the restaurant, right? And you can't really charge what you should for a dish. It's always much lower. Like for example, the true cost of a hamburger, right, at In-N-Out would be $20. If you really did the math, no one would buy it, right? So it has to be good for the consumer. And so the biggest challenges are costs, right? Second challenges are, the second biggest would be just the human labor aspect. You have to constantly motivate, constantly inspire, and run a strong team so that the guests can have a good experience. Because if the team and the people making the food are unhappy, then the food is unhappy and the guest is unhappy, and you can feel it. You've walked into a restaurant where you're like, whoa, not my vibe, right? And then you walked into a place, I'm sure, that's like, oh my gosh, what is this feeling I'm feeling? This is amazing. This is like an escape, like a vacation. It's like a different world in here. And so that's what we're after, is trying to give that escape from the day to day. Come into our space, relax, unwind, heal yourself, enjoy your company. And so those challenges that we face are what drives the business, right? So it's equal parts difficult, but it's also part of the restaurant business. And you have closures, right? Increasing costs every day. Things get more expensive every day. Yesterday's price is not today's price, and it just changes constantly. And so trying to stay up, trying to stay relevant to the trends, which is what we do as restaurateurs, but also trying to provide something that someone else isn't providing. So the list of challenges for a restaurant is in a book this thick, but it's also kind of our expertise, dealing with those challenges as they come.
So even with all that, you're looking at expanding.
Yes, yeah, crazy, right? Yeah, we are. We're looking at Austin, Texas. We're looking at another one in the Kansas City area. Denver has been talked about. Chicago, California. It's on the future for sure. Future plans. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think there's a growing awareness in the population, as you said earlier, that eating healthy is more and more important. And you don't necessarily have to go, full bore to vegan, but really just incorporating less meat, more plant-based meals is good for everybody.
I think so. And it takes that individual to make that choice, right? As you go through life, you realize what makes you feel good and what doesn't. So I think that, just changing, to change your life, you really incorporate 1 or 2 times a week and see how things go. And it doesn't have to be fully plant-based. We're, like I said, we're not trying to overeducate. We're just here. We're here if people are ready. We'll have an open door and a smile to greet them and to share a dish with them. And that's part of our hospitality mission, is to just share that eating vegetables and eating plants, it's not one or the other. It's not about the ego behind it. It's just food, right? It's just food, and that's part of it. But yeah, that's a challenge. That's another huge challenge we have, is that there's all these influencers and people constantly, screaming noise on people's telephones and Instagrams and different types of podcasts saying that one thing's better than the other, and they don't know. But food is good, right? We know that. But I think that people try to over infiltrate someone's idealism on what's good and what's bad. Plants are great, and so eat plants if you can. They're going to change your life and help your heart and lower your cholesterol and give you more energy. But we're not saying the other thing's bad. It's just it's up to you. It's up to you to make the choice, right? Yeah.
So you're looking at expansion. What would you say to someone who wanted to go down the path that you've gone down? So you're essentially an entrepreneur. So you honed your craft in cooking, but now you're the guy in charge, right? What advice would you give someone who wanted to open their own business, whether it's a restaurant or something similar to that?
Absolutely. It's all about that passion and love and that fire that drives you to do something. Financials are important. It's without it, you can't do anything, but you have to have that passion. You have to have that desire to constantly innovate and improve what you're doing day to day. And you see that in the best companies, right? The most successful, Apple, Macintosh, and Tesla, and these companies that are so successful, it's that drive, it's that daily fire that these entrepreneurs have. And there's lots of sleep loss, right? You think about it when you're sleeping, you think about it when you wake up, when your significant other is talking to you, you're thinking about it. Hey, honey, what are you thinking about? I was thinking about spinach. I'm sorry, but you have to just that's the mindset it takes, is that constant passion. So my advice for anybody is that just fuel that passion, put gas on it, and let it grow. Because without it, unfortunately, it doesn't work.
Right. Well, this has been so interesting. Thank you so much for joining us. And I wish you all the best with Whole Harvest Kitchen. And I hope that you expand and I see some of your restaurants close to where I live, because I will definitely come and enjoy.
Thanks, Jenny. I appreciate the time today, and thanks for having me on your show.
Thank you so much.
Take care.